You can watch an explanation for 20 minutes, understand every word, and still learn almost nothing. Close the video, remove the notes, face the problem alone, and suddenly, that confidence disappears. So were you actually learning? Or were you only recognizing information you had just seen? That's the uncomfortable difference between feeling intelligent and becoming capable. And once you understand it, the way you learn almost everything changes. Welcome to Season 2 of the complete Ayanokoji Guide, Mental Mastery. Season 1 built the foundation, mindset, emotions, discipline, influence, and observation. If you haven't watched it yet, the complete Season 1 playlist is on the channel. I recommend starting there, because the foundation comes first. Now we're moving underneath it. We're going to train the machinery behind your thinking. And the first question is simple: can you actually control how you learn? Imagine you're learning programming. You watch someone build a project. Every line makes sense. You think, I understand this. Then you close the tutorial. Blank screen. Build something similar. You freeze. Nothing happened to your intelligence. You simply discovered that recognition is easier than retrieval. Recognition asks, have I seen this? Retrieval asks, can I produce this without help? That's why the first test of learning should happen when the information is gone. Learn the idea, remove the source, reconstruct it, then compare your attempt with reality. If you fail, don't immediately search for another explanation. Ask, exactly where did my understanding break? That gap is useful. Your brain predicted one result, and reality produced another. That mismatch is commonly described as prediction error, a signal that your current model may need updating. So don't hide the gap, find it, because what you cannot retrieve tells you what deserves training. But fixing a weakness today creates another problem. Will you still be able to retrieve it later? Most people answer forgetting with rereading. It feels productive, but seeing the answer again doesn't prove you can produce it alone. So make retrieval harder. Close the material, reconstruct what you remember, identify what disappeared, then return later and retrieve it again. That's spaced retrieval. You're not merely exposing yourself to information, you're rebuilding access to it. And there's another factor people underestimate. Meaning. Connect negotiation to a conversation you've actually had. Connect programming to a problem you genuinely want to solve. Connect psychology to something you've observed. Information becomes more useful when it has meaningful connections, but memory still isn't enough. You can remember a rule perfectly and fail the moment reality changes. Imagine you're learning public speaking. You know your speech, you've practiced it repeatedly, then someone asks an unexpected question. You freeze. Your first thought might be, I need more practice. Maybe, but more practice doing what? If the problem is understanding, explain the idea from first principles. If it's retrieval, produce it without assistance. If it's application, change the situation. If it's execution, isolate the weak component. Then use the loop. Attempt, diagnose, correct, retest. Now failure becomes information. Instead of asking, why am I bad at this? Ask, what part of my current system produced this result? That's a colder question, and a much more useful one. But there's another trap. You can practice correctly and become excellent only at the situation you've practiced. So now we change the conditions. A programmer shouldn't only rebuild the tutorial. A chess player shouldn't only memorize an opening. An artist shouldn't only copy the reference. A speaker shouldn't only repeat the prepared speech. Change something. Different problem, different starting point, different environment. Then ask, did I learn the principle or did I memorize the path? That's the difference between imitation and transfer. Real life keeps changing the conditions. The client changes the requirement. The opponent makes an unexpected move. The audience asks a different question. The project breaks in a way you never practiced. So don't practice only until you can repeat something. Practice until you can reconstruct it somewhere new. That's where knowledge becomes adaptable. But there's one final question. How do you know whether you're actually improving? Before a difficult attempt, make a prediction. How well do I think I'll perform? Then remove assistance. Perform. Measure. Suppose you predict 7 out of 10, but score 4. Don't defend the 7. Update it. Next time predict 5. If you score 8, update again. This is metacognition, evaluating the accuracy of your own thinking. You're training two things simultaneously, the skill and your model of the skill. If your model is wrong, confidence becomes dangerous. You stop correcting problems that still exist, so let evidence decide. Your confidence should answer to reality, not the other way around. Now connect everything. Learn the principle, remove the support, retrieve without help, diagnose the weakness, correct it, retest it, transfer it to a new situation, calibrate your prediction against reality, then return later and retrieve it again. That's no longer passive learning. It's a feedback system. Every attempt gives you information. Every mistake narrows the problem. Every correction changes the next attempt. And that changes the question you should be asking. Not, how much information did I consume, but what can I actually produce with it? Because a powerful mind isn't simply a storage system, it's an adaptive system. Imagine someone can perfectly reproduce a chess opening from memory, but when their opponent makes an unexpected move, they have no idea what to do. Which test best reveals whether they actually understand the skill? A. Memorize 5 more opening variations. B. Repeat the same opening until it feels automatic. C. Start from a different position and solve the new situation. D. Watch another explanation of the same opening. The answer is C. A changed position tests whether the person can transfer what they learned, instead of simply reproducing a memorized sequence. Choose one skill you genuinely want to improve. Programming, drawing, chess, a language, music, public speaking, a sport, anything. Practice it. Then remove the assistance. Attempt something you haven't simply copied. When you fail, don't immediately search for the answer. Diagnose the failure first. Correct the specific weakness, change the conditions, test yourself again. And tonight ask, did I become better or merely more familiar? If you want to turn Ayanokoji's principles into usable skills, subscribe to Shadow Mentality. We're not here to imitate him, we're here to understand the machinery and train it. But there's still a problem. You can learn correctly, retrieve correctly, adapt correctly, and still forget. Why does something you learned years ago sometimes return instantly, while something you learned yesterday disappears? That's where we're going next, memory. And you'll discover something counterintuitive. Forgetting isn't always the enemy, sometimes it's part of the training. Think back to the beginning. The explanation disappeared, and suddenly you couldn't perform. Next time that happens, don't panic. Don't immediately search for another explanation. Test yourself. Retrieve. Find the gap. Diagnose it. Correct it. Change the conditions. Then return later. Because real learning isn't the moment something feels familiar, it's the moment you can still use it, when nobody is helping you. A powerful mind doesn't merely consume, it retrieves. It doesn't merely repeat, it adapts. And it doesn't protect its confidence from reality, it tests it. So the next time an explanation feels obvious, close it. Try to produce the answer yourself. Because when the feeling of knowing disappears, that's not where learning ends, that's where real learning begins.